Hello, everyone. My name is Katie, and this is my Heartlight Nikolai, and welcome to our live chat tonight. We will be talking about my move to Greenland, along with what it was like to adapt to the Greenlandic lifestyle and culture. And we will be talking about Greenland and Nikolai. We just have lots to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And hello, Kevin from Tuber Chat. Thank you for coming. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to make a couple comments. So the topics that we'll be talking about will be about Greenland, the United States, mythology, folklore, history, World War II, art, culture, and more. We will not be able to cover all of the subjects in one night. So this is going to be a multi-episode live about Greenland, and I will be making its own playlist so that you can find it easily should you want to watch the replay and can't find it. I do want to do a disclaimer here. There will be times that some topics might be uncomfortable. We cannot leave history out when talking about what we will be sharing with you as the audience. Our world, it has much history, and some of it's uncomfortable. History is what makes us who we are, and I wanted to make sure you understood that because we're not I don't, you never know what is uncomfortable for someone and what is okay for someone. So I just want you to be aware of that. And hello, Diane Baker Barber. Sorry. Welcome, welcome. Um, so first, we'll start with me moving, right? Or
Yeah.
visit. So what I'm going to talk about first is
I could start because it started with me though.
yeah, you go first.
Well, it started all of the plans. All of it started in 2008 when I get back to work again after being home for 2 or 3 weeks. Then I have this idea that I'm young, want to take a little vacation to the United States because I'm kind of a bit tired of doing the same thing all over again when I'm home. It's like eat, sleep, game, just relaxing. And then it's been doing this. I've been doing the same thing again and again and again. So kind of a little bit boring. Then, like I said, I got this idea of maybe take a visit to the United States for fun to see what they have for to show. I mean, what can I see there? And before I did that, I have me and my wife, we have already been friends 7, 8 years before we ever met. And of course, before I ever take a vacation to the United States, cut it out, girl.
Back up.
Before I ever take a vacation to the United States, I have asked Katie to meet, just like meet up as a friends, and so she can show me around what is to see where she lives. So in 2009, I was down there for 2 weeks.
Yep.
So we met. It was fun, acting like a teenager's. Now you can continue with that one.
Yeah. So when you landed in Tampa after you went through Atlanta, right?
Yeah.
So he had flown through Atlanta and then he ended up in Tampa. And so I lived in Lake City or Fort White, Tech. No, I was still in Lake City at the time. That's right. I was still in Columbia County too. So anyway, and Lake City is about 2.5 hours north of Tampa, and usually it takes about 2.5, sometimes 3, depending on the traffic. And he had been there a couple days before I ever even drove down there. And, like he said, we had been friends for almost 8 years. So neither one of us was looking for love, were we?
Nope, we're not.
I had come out of a bad marriage and, because I lost my first husband due to him dispatching himself in 2006. And so, I'd had a 45-year lifespan of hardship between growing up and marrying the same kind of atmosphere. And
Yeah.
you don't, when you grow up this way and you marry someone, you're hoping that who you marry is going to treat you right. But this happens, and it's in the past now as far as my first husband is concerned. But yeah. So I had just thought about I would never get married again. I was just not going to put myself in a position where a man could treat me badly ever again, because the two men in my life did, my dad and my first husband. And so when he asked me to come down and show him, he wanted me to show him Florida, I kind of messed around for a couple of days. And my friend Melanie's like, don't make me get on a plane and drag your butt down there. Please go have fun. She wanted me to just go have fun. And so I went down there, and when he comes walking out of the hotel, he's barefooted. And it made me laugh because I'm like, wow, Florida already rubbed off on him. And so, what did you think about Florida?
Well, I had a good time down there. Funny thing is, being being a Greenlander, knowing the time when I knowing what time it is, we'll say about around lunch, around noontime, lunchtime. Down there in Florida, when the sun is right above you, that means that's lunchtime. But
Yep.
where I come from, you will have a different angle of lunchtime here. But I had a good time being there. Seen some things that I didn't expect to see, but have a blast down there.
What did you think about the temperature in Florida and the humidity and stuff? What did you think about all of that?
Oh, it was at first it was hard, but before everything before it started, when I was about to fly from Denmark in the morning, where I get out of the hotel, the Danish weather was already warming up. Then I get inside to the airport in Denmark, and all the way until I landed to Tampa, the airports are cooled down because of those
Air conditioning.
air conditioning. Yeah. Then first, I'm about to step out for the first time to Tampa area. Can't remember. I think I landed around 8 or 9 o'clock. The door opened, and it's like I've been punched with a hot air. I couldn't breathe for 10 seconds because it's suffocating me.
It's because you came in August, and August is what we call the dog days of Florida. Between usually mid-July till mid-September is dog days of Florida. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I managed to survive. I managed to breathe again, then got into a bus. I think it was what do you call it? Bus?
Yeah, it's
Shuttle bus.
Yeah.
To the hotel. Then of course get online ASAP. As soon as got into my room, order some food, a beer. Then of course get in touch with everyone. Say I have arrived sound and safe in Florida, Tampa.
Yep. And then I drove like I said, normally it take about 2.5 to 3 hours to get down there. And when I went, I don't remember what time I left Lake City, but I got down there in 2 hours. And the reason I got down there so fast was I managed to get on the interstate with a huge truck convoy. I mean, there was like 20 trucks. And, all you got to do is just sit in the back, like, in the back, and just follow them. And they push the air out of the way, and you get smooth sailing as long as there's not some crazy driver, of course. But it was a good drive down there. I got down there in short order, and when I pulled up and he walked out the door, I was like, wow, that was timing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like he was there. As soon as I pulled up to the hotel, there he was coming out the door. And I'm hoping he'll tell his perspective, but when we hugged each other, something happened, didn't it?
Yeah, unexpected.
Yeah, it was like we were supposed to be doing what we were doing. You agree with that?
Yeah.
And so, for an entire night, when I got there, we had the van took to the parking and everything, and we sat up all night like two teenagers talking and laughing and telling jokes and learning more about each other. And when you sit and you talk to someone, it just you lose track of time. And so we never went to bed that night, that first night. We were just talking. And then we went, he wanted to go see a Harry Potter movie. And I'm like, okay, and he's a whole Harry Potter fan, but I'm like, yeah, okay. But we were just having fun, and he'll tell you that about halfway through the movie, I kept falling asleep. And it wasn't because I was bored. It was because we had burned the midnight candle all night long, and I guess it caught up with me. So anyway, we spent a couple days. What was it? 2 or 3 days in camp? Two, wasn't it?
No, 3 or 4 days.
And then I took him back to Lake City, but I didn't take him home with me. I took him to the hotel where he had set up to stay because, I didn't feel unsafe around him at all, actually. But at the same time, I don't know, I was just being safe, I guess, and but it turned out that I stayed at the hotel more than I stayed at home.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time in the hot tub talking and laughing. It was pretty fun. But yeah, I took him to St. Augustine. We went my friend Mary, and we went to the Spanish Castillo there, and he had a blast. And we had dinner there. We walked around a small area of St. Augustine. We went to see the Bridge Alliance. He got to see that. And I'm hoping we can make another trip to St. Augustine where we can actually stay there a night and go explore more St. Augustine, because I haven't spent a lot of time in there, even though I've spent my entire life just about in Florida. And then after we did that, and then I took him floating down what we call Qaqortoq Springs, and Qaqortoq Springs is about a 3.5 mile long small spring river. It's very famous for North Florida, and my oldest daughter and my son went with us, and we had a good time. And at some point, he's sitting up on the inner tube, and he's got his feet hanging off the side, and suddenly he disappears under the water. And I'm like, uh-oh. And then he's coming back up. He says, I can't swim. And what had happened was his foot got caught on a tree that had fallen into the water. And so I said, stand up. Because there's areas of Qaqortoq where you can stand up in it, even though you're floating down it, and then there's areas that you can actually tell that it's really deep. So this is when I discovered that my sailor, who's been a sailor now 30 years, doesn't know how to swim. It's pretty fun. So that's how we did our Florida trip. Now you pick up from there.
Yeah, well, I don't know what, like she said, that we had a blast at seeing something new, and we were at the Devil's Mill Hopper too.
Yeah, we went to see a big sinkhole, and the sinkhole was you had to travel down, I think it was 270 steps, something like that. So going down, you could go where, you thought it was hot up top, but when you got to the bottom, it was a completely different atmosphere there. It was its own ecosystem, and there was plants and trees growing in there, but it was so humid down there. So when you walk back up the steps, and by the time you get to the top, that 90 degrees temperature that you left to go down felt more like 70 degrees when you got back up there. It was pretty funny. So we did all of that. Just ignore it, babe.
What?
Your phone is ringing. Hear it?
Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah, just ignore it.
I need to take it. I don't know.
Okay. Hold on, you guys. He'll be right back. So, while it might be his job. They're trying to get another person to come work on board. I'm so sorry. How many people's in the chat right now? Say hello to me. I'm hoping we have some people here. Hello, come talk to me. Who was it?
It's one of my shipmates.
According to this, we have 12 people watching. Okay, good. All right, so what we're going to talk about now is when he got ready to go back to Greenland and we were saying our goodbyes, it was hard, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was hard.
It was really hard because even though he was only there 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
He was about 2 weeks. we realized that there was something between us. And I don't know how he felt about it, but I didn't know what to say about it.
Oh yeah, well, you can tell about the Ichi too.
Oh yeah, speaking of dogs and animals, I had horses, but I also had two dogs, and one of the dogs was a small, mini 3/4 Dotson, 1/4. I'm almost sure she was Jack Russell Terrier because of her ears. And after my youngest daughter, went into the Navy, she went to boot camp and then automatically she went to the USS George Washington to Japan. The house got really quiet. It went from being Grand Central Station to being really quiet. And Ichi got protective of me. And so people couldn't, um, when they'd come up, if she didn't know them, she would bark at them and nip at their feet. She loved trying to mess with the light man, the electric man, when he'd come read the meter. The German Shepherd, on the other hand, he's like, whatever, he didn't care. So when we went to take care of feeding the horses and stuff, I had gone in the house and I said, the living room's that way. I'll be in there in a minute because I need to go take care of something. And I'm taking care of something and I'm thinking, wait a minute, how come Ichi's not barking? She didn't even bark when we walked in the door, and I thought that was real. And I was concerned because I thought, maybe she slipped out the door and I didn't know it. So I go walking in the living room, and she's sitting in his lap. She has never met him until that day, and she's sitting in his lap, licking his face. She just automatically bonded with him. So I knew that us coming together must have meant something. I mean, we still didn't have an expectation of anything because when we said our goodbyes, um, I said, well, I hope we get to talk some more. And he's like, we're going to talk. That's going to happen. And what you went home, that was in August. And when he was home again, you came home from sea in September, or did you do it on board when you asked me about dating me?
Well, um, first thing is that I went home. I got back again in September. The mid thing was mid September, I think it was. Then
You must have done it before you went to sea,
yeah,
asking about dating.
yeah. It's more like I was at sea then until the near the end of the year because I know that the ship had to go to the dry dock in Denmark. So before I go to Denmark, before the ship goes to Denmark, I have kind of asked the question to the office is that who is going to pay if I go to Denmark with the ship, who is going to pay for the ticket from Denmark to US and back again? And the one in the office had answered me telling me that if the price is fair, we can pay for it. So because I already have checked the airfare tickets, I sent them a me that it will cost you about so much back and forth.
And I wasn't aware that all this discussion was going on behind the scenes.
So since the office will pay for my ticket to US for another vacation, I surprised her about saying, oh, well, she knows the ship is going to dry. Just before that, I said, oh, well, I think I'm going to take another trip to US to see a girl.
My question was, what girl? He's like, you, if you'll have me, right?
Yeah.
But in between that time frame, he'd mentioned, I want to date you, and I'm like, how are we going to date? And he has this famous sentence: anytime we run into an obstacle, we'll figure it out. And he did. He figured it. We figured it out. And yeah, he got on an airplane and came back over to Florida in the first week in January. And you stayed until you had to go back to sea, right?
It was the beginning of the February.
Was it?
Yeah. It was beginning of the February. I was there again for 6 weeks.
Yeah, you were there for a while.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we did some more road tripping, and he went with me to watch me race my horse. he got on my horse and rode my horse. So I have pictures of him riding my horse, and you know, we had I took him home with me that time. I didn't we he didn't stay in a hotel because I didn't think I had anything to worry about. And an interesting thing happened between, or from my perspective. Um, we had done enough road tripping and doing this and doing that, and I drug him all over the place. He'll tell you I did. I mean, we were always on the go doing something. And um, not one time did this man gripe about anything. He didn't complain about the heat. He didn't complain that I was taking him to riding club with me. What, you know, because he just had, all he could do was sit and watch for the most part and cheer me on. Of course, he did do that. You know, but it, we did so much stuff. And you know, and then we were staying under the same roof. You would kind of expect, well, maybe we would have a skirmish or two. We didn't. And from my point of view, I was like shocked, you know, because I was so used to being treated badly, and this man didn't treat me that way. He treated me like people should treat each other. And you know, and his attitude and his demeanor and the way he would talk to me and talk to other people who he come in contact with. That's why I tell everybody this man here is an amazing human being, because he rarely says bad things about anyone unless they really do something bad. Then he might, and then he's over it within a few minutes. I've discovered that too. So his anger doesn't last but like 2 seconds and then it's gone, you know. So um about half we went down to Clearwater. That's where we went. Yeah. So we made a trip down to South Florida right in the middle of February, right around a couple days before Valentine's Day. And so we were down in Clearwater, and tell them what you did.
Well, we had a little get together down and what was it, Clearwater?
Yeah, Clearwater's where
Yeah,
we were at.
yeah. There are some things we have to do something in that get together down the Clearwater. So and it happened around that not Thanksgiving. What am I saying? More like a
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
I think I'll pop the question about it if you want to marry me
He did.
on a Valentine's Day.
He did. He asked me to marry him, and I'm like, wait, what? And he asked me again, and I'm like, I I just, you know, after everything that I've gone through, he made me feel love. You know, it's hard for me to explain how he made me feel, but I said yes, because I felt like I'll take another leap of faith here and have faith in the human race, you know, and that maybe this man is going to treat me good, because one of the things he would tell me a lot is, you deserve to be treated well, you deserve to be loved. And he still says this even now. He says it's his job to make sure I feel loved and cared for, and you know, no matter what I do or say, or you know, what comes out of my mouth sometimes, or you know, and we talked a lot. We talked about some of my baggage, and when he asked me to marry, it shocked me, because I didn't think, who wants someone who's 45 years old, or 46, 40, 45, 46, grown children, and lots of baggage to come with it, you know. But this guy here, he didn't care about any of that. He just wanted to love me, right?
Yes, indeed.
So we got engaged on Valentine's Day. Okay, you can carry on now.
And funny thing is, after we are engaged, that we talk about maybe she could have a vacation to Greenland to see how her body reacts to the Greenlandic atmosphere.
Yeah, we were concerned about my asthma, is what it was.
Yeah, because she already told me that in the wintertime in Lake City. I mean, in
North Florida.
North Florida, it had given her a lot of trouble with her asthma.
Yep. It's like from October to March, my asthma tries to murder me every winter, you know, fall, winter, and spring anyway.
So
he bought a ticket, set me up, and we set it up so that I came in the middle of December, and I would go back to Florida in the middle of January. So it was right at the right time for the weather to be nasty here. It's going to be nasty, and we'd see how my lungs reacted to it. And I would tell you, this will be I think it's my 1, 2, 3, maybe 5th time of ever flying, but my first time going on a transatlantic flight. That's the one where I ended up in Iceland and Newt, right?
Yeah.
So, my friend Mary, she took me to the airport in Jacksonville to put me on the plane, and we were there for a few minutes waiting, and the plane got postponed till the next morning because there was bad weather in Newark, because it was going to go from Jacksonville to Newark.
Just no postponed. It's delayed. It was delayed.
Yeah, till the next day. That's the same thing as postponing it.
No, it's postponing it for a couple hours to see.
No, because I spent the night in a hotel, remember?
Yeah, but it was postponed. If you landed to Denmark, you're supposed to be there only for 2 hours for you to be.
Oh, well, I haven't got to Denmark yet.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ended up spending the night in Jacksonville. And so when I got on the flight that next morning to go to Copenhagen, when I got there, I already knew I had missed my flight to Greenland. Because like he said, I only had like a 2-hour layover where I was going to go from Jacksonville, Newark to Copenhagen to Nuuk. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah. So when I got to Denmark, I called him and tell him what, because you knew I'd gotten delayed, but he didn't know how long of a delay I actually was having. And so when I got there, I called him using my
international call.
Yeah, it was an international something I had. And within seconds, it just totally ate all of our money, or all of my money, for the phone call. And Nikolai says, before we get disconnected, here, go do this. Go find an information desk and see if we can't get something, dealt with. So I went to an information desk. I finally found someone who was listening, and they sent me to an information desk. And I keep in mind, I had already been in the air about 8.5 hours, so I was already tired. And then there's all this drastic time changes going on, because Denmark was 6 hours ahead of Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, 6.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. Anyway, there was that big time difference. And so when I got there, I was getting frustrated because everywhere I went, they would send me to somewhere else, and then they would send me here. And you got to keep in mind that I come from a smaller city, small period. And, big airports are scary, especially if you don't know the airport. So I didn't know anything about the Copenhagen airport. And when I finally found an information desk, there was this young man running the front of the desk, but you could see an older man sitting back there listening to the whole conversation. And I was trying to explain in English to a Danish person what was going on, and he wasn't really paying attention to what I was saying. So the man got up, he says, you know what, you go do this, I'll help her. And they ended up, and they set a 3-way call up between us at the airport, Nikolai, and the travel agent. And so it turned, they couldn't get me on a flight to go straight from Copenhagen to Qaqortoq in Greenland. So what ended up is I got to do a small detour, and I spent the night in Iceland. And when I saw Iceland was this, like, you see a lot of flat land, but there's volcanoes and stuff there. But that was Keflavik or the other place?
I think it's Keflavik.
Yeah, Keflavik. And it was like this itty bitty mini European town. And they picked you up on a bus to take you to the hotel, because I stayed one night in a hotel. And it was so immaculate. I mean, I've never seen such. It was just totally amazing to experience that. And then, when it was time to fly out, so I ended up going from there to Nuuk.
Nuuk, yeah.
Yeah, and I had to spend another night in Nuuk. So that was 2 nights. that I wasn't in Greenland. And I had just a little tiny amount of time to kind of mess around and nuke. And then I had to go to bed and then get up the next morning real early and fly to this town and tell everybody how to say our town.
Qaqortoq.
Now, here's how I say it with Qaqortoq. So he makes a sound here that I can't make. So say it again.
Qaqortoq.
Yep. And I've noticed that not all Greenlanders say it this way either. So why do you think that is?
Accent, I think.
Because they're from north?
Probably.
Okay. Hello, Herman. Welcome, welcome. So anyway, when I got here, first time in 2 different countries, big time zone differences, jet lag. But I got to when we were here, or when I got here and got settled for a couple of days, he started taking me around the town, and I saw parts of Stone and Man, and we're going to talk about that later. Different things. We have a lot of pictures, and I was going to show you some pictures tonight, but I don't know what the deal is. But for some reason, I can't get on Flickr with this laptop, so we'll figure it out on the next go around because I can see it on the other one. So anyway, we did that, and then I got to experience a Greenlandic Christmas. That was interesting. Because we were invited to 2 different places. We went to your aunt's, and then we went to Anda's house, remember?
Yeah.
So I have pictures of a few pictures of those 2 little episodes, but it was really different because I'm an English speaking person, and everybody was either speaking mostly Greenlandic. I don't think I heard much Danish during that time frame. And so it was like you're the only person in the middle of a forest, and you're the different tree and everything else is the same tree. And so, people are talking around you, over you. Some of them could speak a little bit of English. But I still had a really good time, and it was a great experiencing the Christmas. And now you get to pick up from that.
Well, and I got to during her visit here in Greenland for the first time, I let her feel on how palm of a snowflake that hits her palm, how it melts, how her palm will react to the snowflake, and let her walk a little, walk bare feet on the snow to make her feel how cold it can be. And of course, on the New Year's Day, let her show her how we celebrate it.
Yeah. So he has a funny story to tell you about taking me on the lake.
Oh yeah, that part.
Because the lake used to be frozen, and it would freeze over in October here. And so when I came, the lake was already frozen.
And I could have already taken her to the lake earlier, but just before she go home was that I let her walk on a lake, frozen lake, of course. But I'm walking around the edge of the lake, but every time it cracked, I want to go. It's unsafe. I'm trying to tell her it's already where you are walking. It's already solid to the bottom.
I would run off the ice, and he would just laugh because he thought it was the funniest thing he ever. I never walked on ice. I've never even seen a frozen lake in my life. So and when I got settled and quit running off the ice, it was an amazing experience to walk across the lake like that. And the ice talks. It moves and it makes these funny noises and vibrations, and the vibrations bounce off because the lake has mountains on 3 sides of it, very tall mountains, and that vibration would bounce off the mountains. And sometimes when you're sitting here in the house, and if you're not listening to TV or whatever, you can actually hear that sound, and it's kind of disconcerting because you're like, what was that? You realize it was the lake. So after Christmas, what did you do?
Well, after Christmas, while everything is going on with New Year's Eve, I told her that, well, you ain't going nowhere. Before you leave Greenland, we are going to get married.
Yeah, because originally when we got engaged, we just talked about waiting till Kristen got leave from the Navy to come home, but there was stuff going on in Japan between the earthquake and everything else that happened over there that she just couldn't take leave when she was thinking she was going to take leave, and then he just got it in his mind, you're not going anywhere until we get married. Sorry, guys. So we got married in this house, almost in this spot, sorta. It's like right here.
Yeah.
Um, and he had family here. I don't remember exactly how many people come, but we got the mayor of the town married us, and it was kind of funny because he gave us this little short lecture about being married and what you're supposed to do as two married couples, and he did it in both languages when he did it, and then he married us, and so we got married on January the 2nd, the day after New Year's.
Yep.
And this January 2nd will be our 14th wedding anniversary.
Well, I'll be at sea at that time though, but
You're going to be.
Yep. It is what it is with my line of work.
Yep. But we will be closer to that 15-year milestone, and he'll be home for that. So 15 years in a year from January,
Yeah.
So that's how it all started. We realized that my asthma was really pretty good. I mean, there was a couple of times where I got out of breath just because we were hiking. Asthma is a weird thing because most of my asthma problems relate to environmental and the environment that I'm in, and I've had substantial damage done to my lungs, so there's no way to recover any of that. And so when we were out hiking, I only had shortness of breath a couple of times just because we were out really hiking a lot at that time frame. But outside, the weather never triggered it once, not once. So when I went back to Florida, I spent from the middle of January until August the 15th getting ready to move here. I had to find homes for 4 horses, 1 dog, and a cat that didn't have a name. And the other dog that I brought with me, Ichi, the one that I talked about, fell in love with him. We had to jump through a lot of hoops to bring her here because there's all these. You have to, even though she had her vaccination, she had to have them again, and she had to test negative for a rabies something in her bloodstream, and that's a very expensive test that you have to pay for to fly to Europe. But any dogs that fly back and forth between the United States and Europe have to do that. So we went through all that, and on the 15th of August of 2011, I got on a plane with Ichi and 2 suitcases and moved here.
Ask you a question.
How and why did Greenland get its name? Oh, we're going to talk about that. Yay! Someone asked a good Kristen. Okay, so.
Hi, Lori.
And hi, Lori. So, Greenland got its name because of Eric the Red, who was a Viking from Norway. And how he come about being in Greenland was, it started out with him in Norway. He got into a fight with someone, and he murdered them. And the powers that be back then, instead of, I guess,
Laura, get down,
locking them up in prison or whatever, I guess they didn't have prisons back then, huh?
Oh,
I don't know, but he was kicked out of Norway basically and told never to come back again.
Exile.
Yeah, exiled. Yeah. So he moved to Iceland, and he had a wife and I think 2 kids. The son was called Leif, and he's in a lot of history about the Vikings because he did a lot of things even after he came to Greenland. And while he was in Iceland, Eric the Red raised these kids with his wife, and they got to adulthood, and the Leif got into an argument with a neighbor, and Eric settled it by murdering the neighbor.
Hi, Susan.
And Eric was famous. The reason they called him Eric the Red was because he had this flaming red color hair. but also he had this flaming red hot temper. And instead of settling like civilized people, he would just go and do bad things to people. And so he ended up being exiled from Iceland too. And so right before he left Iceland, one of his friends had talked about that he had been out on his boat and he got caught in a bad storm and found himself in a remote island. And he talked about how green and beautiful it was, and he more or less told Eric how to find it. So when Eric got exiled, he came to South Greenland, and he lived here for about 3 years while he explored the southern parts of Greenland. And he decided 3 years later that he was going to go back and tell his family and his friends, hey, y'all need to come over here and move to this country. I'm going to name it Greenland. And he named it Greenland for a good reason. It was green and beautiful. It everybody thinks that Greenland is covered in a sheet of ice that goes from the coast all the way across to the other coast. That's not how it works here, especially in the south. There's lots of valleys with lots of green things, and you could farm and raise farm animals. There was all this stuff, and so 26 boats set sail for Greenland, and 14 of them made it here. And they set up settlements in 3 different places, or 4? 4 different places. One was south of Nuuk, and the rest of them were down here in our area. You have Brattahlid, and you have Inuit. I forget the name of the other one. Yeah, I can't remember the name of the other 2. But there is Viking ruins here. So the person who named Greenland was Eric the Red. His son Lee had his own village that he set up. I think Inuit was his, wasn't it?
I think it was
because Brattahlid was Eric's village.
Oh.
Yeah. So his son still had an itching for exploring, so he ended up setting sail for North America. And technically, he's the first person with whoever went with him to find North America, not Columbus. Columbus was second. So it was the Norsemen who found North America first.
No, Columbus just make it a big, that's all.
Yeah. But if you want to learn more about the ice, they're called the sagas of Icelanders, because he was considered an Icelander because he had spent many years there after he got expelled from Norway. And there's some books here. There's one. This one's called The Sagas of Iceland. And I will post links. I'm also going to be writing a blog where you can find these links for these books easily. So there's a big, thick book, and it tells all about the Norsemen in this one. And then this is another extension of the stories about the destination of Viking. And in both of these books, it talks about when Eric the Red came to Greenland. So this not only covers Iceland, it covers the travels that they did to Greenland and also to North America. Both these books discuss all of this, and it's a really good read. There's lots of great pictures in here that you can see. You know, it's a really nice book, and I have all the information. But this one's called Destination Viking Sagalands. That's what they call it. And that one is that one Sagalands too? Well, this one's by Penguin Book. Look.
Yeah.
So these are, probably can find these on Amazon, and I'll post the links in the ISBN numbers for them. Susan says she is British and Norwegian ancestry. Cool. I have to tell you what my ancestry is before we finish this. Okay. So now what we're going to do, I already talked about we already did all that. So here's what we're going to try to cover tonight. We're going to talk about me coming to Greenland, which we've already talked about part of it. I'm going to talk about my adapting to the Greenlandic life, a little bit of Greenlandic history. Nikolai's going to talk about his life as a native Greenlander. We'll talk, there's a ghost story he's going to tell you guys, and I'm going to talk about Mother of the Sea and shamanism. And we'll talk, and whatever we don't finish subject-wise, we're going to have several episodes. And when he comes home again, because he leaves Thursday. When he comes back, we'll set up a time after he's got settled again, and we'll do episode 2. So why don't you tell them about where you were born and what it was like growing up, and talk about your mom and all the things that happened in your young life as a Greenlander.
Well, originally I am born up north, another town called Asian. It's above the polar circle. So I'm born. We can say I'm born already above the polar circle. There, it's around the polar circle is where you have all those sledge dogs that you can have, and life up there is a little bit different because in wintertime everything can be frozen, solid frozen and ice, so we can have a dog sledge all over the places. My mother perished when I was around 6 years old. It was the worst year of my life. Was around 1980.
You can say what she perished from. It's okay. I already said there might be some disturbing stuff.
Yeah, well,
it's okay.
She committed suicide by it, so I'm not very happy to tell you that, but it is what it is. And I think it was kind of like a black sheep of the family, so it's like been bouncing from family to family, and my family part didn't want me, and of course one of my aunts would wanted to have me to adopt me, but she just have suffered another of what do you call it, accident with her, so she's unavailable for me because she's grieving of her loss of her husband and a child too. So I think within 3-4 months later, I was adopted with my adoptive parents, and after that, around when I was adopted, we moved from Asia to South Greenland.
He has a sister. Your sister's how many years older than you?
She was 10 when that happened.
Yeah,
and
she
I
was
6.
10 and he was 6, and they got split apart. They didn't get to grow up together.
But around from 1980 to 84, we live here in Qaqortoq, then moved back again to Asia again in 94. So 90, I think, or 92, 91, then we moved back here again.
Do you think that moving back and forth is just part of the migratory thing that is inherent in Inuits?
Possible.
Because it seems like they move around a lot.
Oh yeah, we
stay one place for 2 years, go somewhere else for 2 years.
Well, it's like if I should talk about the Greenland all of the place, all the time, the hunters, the family, they're following the what they're hunting for. Seals, whales, and of course there have been bad day, well, not a bad year where there are huge famish where people die of hunger, and those who barely survive turn into cannibalism and eating the dead.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Well, they did. Those that have been eating that, they're survived and keep going on. But of course there's been a neighbor rivalry as too, because there's a lot of things that have happened during that year. I mean, in her old days, like rivalry, hunger, famine, and of course European people that comes to Greenland, they bring their disease too.
Yep.
So some villages that they were perished because of that. They're not immune to the
disease. Yeah, the disease. Yeah.
To the diseases that the European brought them with them.
Yep.
So there has been some areas where they're just all the family just been wiped out, and a few people survive that. Those that are strong enough in their body survive that sickness.
What was it like growing up as a kid, as a Greenlander during that time frame? Was there things for kids your age to do, or did you get taught how to survive more than play?
Oh, we played a lot. So it's of course we're growing up. While you were growing up, you kind of like a after school during the weekend. You take a uh, sleds ride in the weekend to hang up your net for in the ice, like what do you call it?
Ice fishing?
Ice fishing and
Did you go
hunting.
on did you go on seal huntings too?
No, but the most like hanging the net in the water, because. But I never caught anything. So, but it could be that we hung them in a
Wrong place.
wrong place. Yeah.
Kids will be kids, right?
Yeah.
We see the kids down at the harbor with these what they're called, long lines, right?
Yeah.
And they'll throw the long lines in the water, and I'm thinking I would not eat any of those fish that came through the harbor, you know. It's hilarious.
So it's been up and down with my life during the after adoption, and because I have to adapt to a new family. But the family that I was adopted to, they of course took me pretty good, and I've been part of them with what 44 years now.
Yeah, that family's pretty big. There was what, 13 of them or something?
15 too.
Oh, 15 of them, yeah. And I've met all of them except your adoptive dad. He passed away before we ever got together.
Yeah, same year.
Yeah, same year as my husband died, in fact. But now I've got to meet his biological dad, and we'll talk about that story later. But
Yep.
so are you done talking about that part?
So,
so what we're going to do is kind of backtrack and talk about Greenland itself and how it became what it is, or how people got here. We've already talked about Eric the Red, but Eric the Red, watch out, babe. Eric the Red was not technically the first person on this island. It was actually the Inuits. How old were you when you learned English?
Oh, around 6. No, more like guess. That's around the school. I'm probably around 8 or 9, 10-year old.
He speaks 3 languages. And I watch him sometimes. We'll go into town shopping or something, and he'll have one person who happens to be Danish and they don't speak Greenlandic, and he'll be talking to them. He'll be talking to me in English, and another person will come up and they're talking Greenlandic, and I'm standing there watching him go from English to Greenlandic to Danish back and forth, and you don't see anything crossing his face like this is too much. He just does it like it's second nature for him.
And of course, how I learned it is more like some video, watching videos, of course, and some of them have subtitles, but there have been some videos where I've bought where there have no subtitle at all. So
you had to listen.
I have to listen to what are they saying, like try to figure out myself. And of course, when I got my job at the ship out at the beginning of my early days, and as a fisherman, we have two Argentinian personnel that coming on board with us as a Japanese inspectors, as we call them, and they only speak English and of course their language of themselves.
Portuguese.
Portuguese. So I always talk to them in English.
Yeah. So now we're gonna do a little history here, and y'all keep asking questions and we'll keep answering too. So thousands of years ago, the Inuit people traveled between Alaska to Russia. And they used to be like this big migratory group that would travel back and forth, and they would follow reindeer, muskox, polar bears, whale, one specific whale, in fact, called the bowhead whale. They nearly hunted the bowhead into extinction because they ate them a lot. Seal hunting. So they migrated back and forth for a long time. Then that was during the Qaqortoq age and the Dorset age. Those two time frames, that's what was going on, back and forth migratory. They never, and during the summer months, they lived in tents or sealed or like fur covered tents, things like that. But in the winter months, they actually had sod houses and they used furs for the roofing, and then they would put the sod on top of that, and that's what they lived in. But in the Thule age, that's when these groups split apart. Some stayed in Alaska, some stayed in Canada. There was a big group of them that migrated to Greenland, and then the rest of them were, in China and Russia. And so the dialects are different, but some of the language that's spoken in Canada, Alaska is similar to the Greenlandic language here. You can see some of the similarities. It's just the dialects different, and the words are a little bit different on some stuff. So when the Thule age started and the Inuits settled here in Greenland, like we were talking about earlier, they would migrate up and down the coast. During the summer months, they would go up and down, and then in the winter months, they would stay in sod houses. And so they lived a pretty nomadic life back then, and basically so they could, because they were hunter gatherers and fishermen, and that's what they did. Let me see here. Around after this immigration, that's when Eric the Red discovered South Greenland. And at some point, the Inuits ran into the Vikings, didn't they?
Yep. Hi, June.
Hey, June.
When they run into each other, of course there has been what do you call it, rivalry too. And
yeah.
Because we don't know each other. I mean, the Greenlandic people, the Inuit and the Vikings don't know each other, so they killing each other from time to time.
There's a lot of supposition about whether or not it was the Inuits that wiped out the Vikings here in South Greenland, because the Vikings were here about 500 years, and people didn't know that they had gone missing until Denmark sent a missionary here in the
17th century, I think.
17th century. There's a date, 17 something. 1781 or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I'm terrible with dates. I just know the history. So they sent a missionary here, and he was coming here to Christianize Vikings, which from my point of view, I'm like, wait, a lot of the Vikings were already Christianized in the Episcopal religion. And so this missionary that came from Denmark was Lutheran. And so they wanted to convert them from Episcopalian over to Lutheran. But when they got here, there was no Vikings. They were gone. But what they did find was Inuits. And so this is where I was taught when I said at the beginning that there was going to be some tough subjects. This is where some of it's going to be a little uncomfortable. So when the missionaries came here, they took children from parents, put them on a boat, sent them back to Denmark. They were forced into religion, forced into learning Danish. They weren't allowed to speak their native tongue. And when they were done being trained, they were sent back here to help force the entire population into Christianity. And there is actual written stories about that. If an Inuit tried to go back to their pagan history, they would beat the tar out of them for it. So there's a lot of history about this particular colonization and how it changed the Inuit lifestyle. And some of it hasn't changed, but a lot of it did. And now the younger generation we're seeing is starting to talk about how they want to be able to do, live the way they want to, and not necessarily keep following the Christian way of doing things, because that wasn't their original culture. And we're going to talk a lot about ghost stories, mythology, shamanism and how all of this came together to crash into Christianity. So that's when all of this started. And okay, so now here in this town, there's a church. The older church here was built in 1821.
Fabrics.
Hey, Fairbricks, welcome, welcome. Yeah, Susan, exactly. Just like what happened in the United States. Yes. There's a lot of stuff that's come up recently, and Denmark has a lot to have to answer for that they've done, some of what they're still doing, and they were just in the news recently because of something that happened. And we'll talk about that another time. We're not going to talk about that particular subject tonight, but yeah. So the indigenous were forced into a lifestyle that was not their own. And you know, uh some of the stuff that I've learned because of taking the Arctic guide class and things, some of it's pretty disturbing what went on. And the history here is so deep when it comes to things like that. Okay, you want to so what I thought I would do is break this apart a little bit, and Nikolai's going to tell you guys a ghost story called Qaqortoq.
Basically, a Qaqortoq, she said, that is a person that have left the civilization and lived just right away from all the responsibility. It could be a minor thing that had triggered it, like let's just say I was in love with a specific girl, but the girl rejected my proposal, and I got a little offended, and I just, okay, screw it, I'll turn it to Qaqortoq. It's like a person just going to the nature and just vanish away from the civilization and living from the nature and just disappear from all that existence. And I've heard that there are some stories about those Qaqortoqs is that they've been nowadays that the newer version was that if I leave this civilization just living from the nature, when I will be losing my humanity and religion. I will be punished by it, and I've become, I don't know, something else.
Yeah, so it's like a ghost story, kind of like, because it talks about some young people. One of the things that I've heard that I've been told about was there's cabins strung out all over Greenland. They don't have electricity or running water, but during the summer months, a lot of people will camp in these small cabins so that they can hunt and fish. They even do that today. And we're starting to see more and more of these small cabins dotting the South Greenland areas where there's no, towns or settlements. And the story says that a group of young people would go to a cabin and they would start talking about this ghost story with Qaqortoq, and then each one of them would start disappearing, and they would say that the Qaqortoq took them.
Yep.
And so before it was over with, all of them would have disappeared, and no one would know where they went to. So they always tell these stories about how they disappear and it's because of the Qaqortoq. More than likely, that's not really what happened.
And even the U.S. Marines had disappeared too here in Greenland before during the World War II and I think it might be the Korean War.
Might be because Korean was after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have heard that a Qaqortoq's been sighted somewhere in Qaqortoq that has a sidearm.
Oh wow!
And I have heard that American tourists come to to Qaqortoq where the wife disappeared was like the husband just going to somewhere just like gone within 2 minutes, minute or two, the wife just disappeared, vanished. Hi, Alexandra.
Hi, Zaza.
Then the wife disappeared, and I've heard that the husband keep returning every year, trying to find her wife.
Mhm.
But one of these days, the wife reappeared in front of him.
I remember you telling me that one.
Yeah, in front of him and telling him, "Stop searching for me. I'm living with this man now that is Qaqortoq. I have his kids."
Yeah, she was like a ghost, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's now living part of that now.
Yeah, it's a really interesting story, you know, that she disappears and tells him to stop looking. So there's that story. There's also the story about um what is Rasmussen's first name?
Knut,
Gulud, right?
yeah,
Only I say it weird. Anyway, Gulud Rasmussen, there's a story about him and Charles Lindbergh. Him and Charles Lindbergh, and y'all know who Charles Lindbergh is, most of you, because he was an American who liked to fly his little two-prop plane all over the place. And one of the places he spent an extraordinary amount of time in was here in Greenland. And we have a museum that used to be, it was built in 1879.
like one heck of a big Lego.
It's a, yeah,
Lego brick.
yeah, and it was built, it was a what you call a prefabrication. It was designed by a Danish Norwegian architect in Denmark. They built it in Denmark, took it apart in Denmark, brought it over here and put it back together. Just and it has markings on the wood of where they were supposed to put each one of these pieces. And it has 3 floors on it. And it when it was first built, the front half of it was like living quarters where they had living room and kitchen and dining area, and then on the second and third floor they had sleeping quarters. And so on the third floor, there's two like more private cabin or not cabin rooms, and Rasmussen and Charles Lindbergh spent a lot of time there. Also, Charles Lindbergh brought his family here, and while he was here with his 2 kids, or was it just one kid?
I don't know.
They never talk about the other kid because I know they had more than one kid, but their son, someone kidnapped his son, and they never saw his son again. They couldn't find him, and no one knows who did it. He just disappeared, his son. But they also traveled with an Inuit woman, and you get to say her name. She is very famous. She's the first woman Inuit who traveled with Rasmussen and Lindbergh, and a lot of his, especially Rasmussen, because between him and her, they traveled over 180,000 kilometers of Greenland. And she was the reason a lot of them survived. One time she came back from a trip with Rasmussen, and they started out as 20 and they came back just him and her because they just could not, the other 18 of them perished because they just couldn't handle the Arctic conditions. Some fell through cracks. There was all kinds of different reasons why they passed. Some got sick, some got injured. But she was the backbone of all the expeditions because she not only cooked for them, she helped clothe them, she fixed the winter clothing that were made of fur. She did a lot of different things, and she could find her way all over the place. So she's a very famous person, and I have a picture of her. They did a carving of her that's down in our town square, and I've been here 13 years, and this past year is when I learned about her history. All this time I've been asking, who is this? Who is this? And no one could answer it. And someone finally got the information. And so now I have a few page story about her that I'll be sharing on a blog. And she's a very interesting woman. And when she joined the expedition, the reason she joined the expedition was it was supposed to be her brother. But her brother, first it started out with her parents dying. Then her brother was supposed to join the expedition and something happened to him and he died. So they just left her, the only remaining family member that was supposed to be part of the expedition, and that's why she ended up being the leader of the expedition.
She hunts too.
Yep, she hunted, she fished, she did everything. Okay, now we'll talk a little bit about the United States and Greenland because when I on one of our next episodes, we're going to talk about the Stone and Man Open Air Art Museum and the program about it. And it ties into World War II. So I have to tell a story about World War II in order to tie these two things together so you have an understanding of time frame. So in 1941, we all know what happened. And Denmark was was under Nazi occupation. So Greenland was just like, you know, unguarded, unprotected, and apparently there was you know, all countries have a way of finding out what other countries are going to do or what they plan on doing because of communication and how they pick up this information. And the United States had picked up some communication that was implying that China and one other country were going to try to land grab Greenland while it was occupied by the Nazis. And so the president at the time was Johnson, I think, or Isaac, one of them. Whoever was, because you had Roosevelt also doing World War II.
I think it was Roosevelt.
It had been Roosevelt, yeah, Roosevelt. So he contacted the Danish, the Royal Danish, what are they called? The Danish Crown, that's what they're called. He contacted the Danish Crown and says, this is what we've been hearing, and we have a proposal. Why don't you let the United States put Greenland in its protection, and we, in return, we will bring some of Greenland into the present technology-wise. And so they had an agreement that as long as they were in, you know, as long as World War II was going, the United States would take care of anything relating to Greenland. And so they sent the Marines, the Army, the Air Force. I don't know if the Navy was involved or not, but I know that there was 3 different things. So down here in South Greenland, where we live, you've heard me talk about flying by helicopter from here to Narsarsuaq. Narsarsuaq runway was built by the American military. And there's barracks there, still there. There's a, what is that thing called in the side of the mountain? It's where they stored all their ordnance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was they had put a big cave inside of one of the mountains where it has a steel door on it, and that was used for storing ordinances. And so while they were doing that, they also came to this town, and this town went from being a very quiet, slow-paced community to a lot of loud noise for the Greenlanders. I mean, it was deafening. Heavy equipment. They came in and put a radio station at the top of the mountain that overlooks the harbor. And that radio station is still there. And actually, when tourists come, you can go up there and see the station as it was way back during World War II.
Hi, Jess.
Hey, Jess. No, it was Roosevelt, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
Zaza.
Yeah, I think it's Roosevelt too.
But Eisenhower came in behind Roosevelt, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, I think Eisenhower was behind Roosevelt. I don't know. I'm terrible about what period who did what. I just know the president's name. So anyway, during that time frame, they put in the radio station, they put in the airport, which they called back then Blue West One. They put another airport in off the East Coast, and I cannot say the name of that town. The one with the big long name.
Nassau.
No.
What?
Off the East Coast.
It's Qaqortoq.
Yeah, that one. So there was a.
Well, you can say it too if you say eat duck cut dome meat.
Qaqortoq.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big long word anyway. Tell me how to spell it. Or you write it. You know how to. Yeah, you do it. So this is the one that's off the East Coast, and this is still this town is still there, and people actually live there. I think they have a population of 200 or 300.
Yeah.
Truman came in after Roosevelt died. Okay, yeah. But Eisenhower's the one that tried to buy Greenland, right?
I think so.
It was one of the presidents after the war was over with. He wanted to buy Greenland. not the current one that tried to. We'll talk about that can of worms later. Anyway, next time I'll make sure I look it up and get the right presidents in the right order. But Roosevelt definitely was dealing with World War II because he was president when Pearl Harbor got bombed. All right, so they also set up Thule Air Base, which is in the extreme northern part of Greenland. That air base is still there, but now it's called Space Command. It got changed during the first go around with Trump. Someone decided to change its name. All right, so
now that we're still on World War II, the funny thing is that apparently a small German force had occupied a little piece of land in East Coast.
Yeah.
Where they're making some weather reports. It's like
that's right.
If we have a bad weather here in Greenland, the Europe will have a
readout of it.
Yeah, readout. It will be like a good weather in Europe, bad weather in Greenland. Then sooner or later they will be like switching to each other, switching places. So there has been a radio station, like a weather station in East Coast in Greenland. I've seen it, that place, but I think it's unmanned now.
Yeah, but while the United States was it's not occupation. That's not what they did. They were just here, stationed for a while. They put satellites all up and down the East Coast so that they could monitor what China and Russia and everybody else was doing. And they still have those satellites over there. And they've been updating them recently and doing more stuff because of the activity with Russia and their Ukraine stuff. And so this country's become like a hot spot for several subjects. One being because the sea ice has broke apart so early and it's not coming back like it should be. So the shipping lanes are opening up there. So there's going to probably be a big escalation of activity between several countries at once, and they're going to be arguing over that area, even though it belongs to Greenland. And so, yeah, we have all that to deal with. But anyway, during World War II, they did all of this to get Greenland in the updated form of technology. And that did change the way, it did change the way of life here in Greenland, in certain areas because of that activity. And then in 1969 is when they gave it back, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, in 1969 is when in 1960, who was, someone, can one of y'all, no, I'll look it up. You talk while I look it up. Whoever was president in 1969 is the one that tried to, yeah, I think.
Either, can't really even remember that part, but the reason they call it Blue West One is to it's more like a hit message for the airplanes for when they're coming in from the US and just like trespassing here for refuel, they go on again. They call it the Blue West One for a reason, because to elude the Germans for where they're going.
1945. Okay, so from 1941 to 1945, the United States had numerous facilities and stuff here in Greenland. How long did it take the
Nixon.
No, Nixon was in office, and it was before Nixon. So I want to say it was Eisenhower, but I could be wrong. Who originally wanted to buy Greenland?
Trump is the second one that wants to buy Greenland. And sorry to him, he said they got a big no from Denmark.
I was close to the date in yeah.
67.
Wait a minute. That's
no 1860. But it was fun. I mean, like I've been there not several times when I'm on my way back to work or coming back home. And there's a place what they call a hospital valley during the Korean War that those that was wounded or just need some stress relief that they been hospitalized there. I've seen that valley before and after the nature before and after the nature had conquered it. Before it was just like a big place where then after several years later I was there again to see that the nature had taken over big time.
Oh, it might be right. It was Truman. Truman was the one that wanted to buy it. And the Danish crown said, nope. And I can tell you that when it was mentioned again by Trump, you should have heard the population. The comment was, you cannot buy the Greenlandic people. We are not for sale. And one time I repeated that to someone. They're like, he's not trying to buy the people. What people don't understand is the Greenlandic people are Greenland. This landmass is the people. They have taken care of nature. They have been in a symbiotic relationship with nature. And we'll talk a lot about the symbiosis between the two and how they respect nature and have tried to take care of it. And they don't want people coming in here destroying this beautiful place just for resources. In fact, I'll give you an example of this. 2 hours boat ride from here is Narsaq. It's a small town, and the population's around a little over 1,000, I believe. And there's this really humongous mountain sitting there in the background. And anyone want to guess what that mountain is full of? Let's see who can guess why other countries would be interested in the resources that sits inside of this mountain. Who wants to guess what's in it? Let's see what we get for an answer while we're talking about it. So tell me what you think is in the mountain, and I'll tell you the rest of the story. So I've been here for 13 years, and over the last 11, every year this mountain gets voted on again by the Greenlanded people. And each year it's been a big fat no. And I told Nikolai, I said, they cracked that mountain, we're moving, because I don't want to be anywhere near it. Nope, not lithium. What would destroy nature in such a way that it can get into the water system, everything? Think about it. That big, huge, rich companies would want to get their hands on and use it for something bad. Yeah, June says it was Truman. So, yep. I knew it was right after, yeah. Anyway, anyone you don't know? Let's see who knows. Nope. What would you use for war?
How about
they also
submarines?
Yeah, submarines or aircraft carriers.
What do they use?
And they use them for bombs.
Yep.
Anyway, it's uranium. This mountain is loaded. It is so loaded with uranium that it could put the infrastructure on the map here in Greenland, money-wise. But it would destroy everything around it. The ice cap is next to it. We live 2 hours down from it. Super radioactive. Yeah, uranium. Exactly. Very bad. And so the Greenlandic people have been standing up to the politicians and saying, no, we're not doing this. Not happening. And so far, no has been taken as no, and they're not going to mess with it. And I've been to Narsaq several times, and you can't even think in your brain why you would want to crack that mountain open and ruin everything that's around it, because that's exactly what would happen. The United States did have a creosote mine, but do you know where that one was located at?
Yeah, that's far north from here.
Yeah, because they used to mine creosote to help make those big bullets that go in airplanes and stuff. I forget what they're called, but that was mined here as well. So There's a lot of resources here. I mean, there's uranium, there's gold,
Zinc.
silver, zinc. There's lithium too, isn't there?
I think so.
Yeah, I think they found an area that has lithium in it.
Titanium.
Titanium. There's rubies. There's a ruby mine. Oh my gosh, yeah, there's that. And that mine that Hanifa's brother's working at.
That's a gold mine.
Gold mine, yeah. So there is several things here, but they haven't allowed anyone to drop a drill to drill for oil. That hasn't happened. And I think as long it does that sometimes. I think as long as Denmark agrees with Greenland on things, they won't allow it. Yeah, Susan says the almighty dollar, Katie. Yep. Money is what it all boils down to. Money and greed. Yeah. And we all know that when a rich company jumps into a country that's a third world country or even a second world country, they'll come and take all the resources, and the people who work their butts off to help get nothing.
Hi, Mama J.
Hey, Andrea.
Girl, cut it out, will ya?
Wow. People have been having YouTube trouble about notifications not going off and stuff. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about that. So, there's that aspect. And right now, Greenland's like smack dab in the middle of discussions right now. And it's because the sea ice has broken down. So there's a water area up there that used to couldn't be traveled by ship. So they're going to be arguing over that. And all these countries think that they have a right to that area when it actually belongs to Greenland. And so we don't know what's going to happen with all of that as well. So, yeah.
Oh, and
yeah, exactly what Zazal said. They walk away and leave the mess. That's the other thing. On the East Coast, I had a run-in one time with a Greenlander. I didn't know what time it was, but it was late. It was like 2:00 in the morning. But it was still daylight to me. And he was drunk. And he was he said something to me in Greenlandic, and I said, I don't understand. And I hadn't even been here, what, a year?
Yeah.
Something, a year or 2 years at the most. And oh my gosh, he went ape crap, man. He did. He says, you need to take your American ass back to your country. You have no right to be living here in my country. And I asked Nicola, I'm like, what in the world was that about? Come to find out that generation that's still living, some of them are angry because when America came here and did what they did to protect Greenland, and then they pulled up and left, they left all their crap behind. There is thousands of barrels filled with spent fuel oil in them leaking into nature off the East Coast. They have not cleaned it up. They left their tractors, all their crap behind, and it's rotting and going back into nature. That's why he was angry.
Not just the East Coast. There's some in the West Coast too.
Yeah. So that's the problem when you have big countries come into small countries to use the resources or to come under the guise, I'm going to protect you while I do blah, blah, blah. They don't leave it the way they found it. And that's why we're going to talk about the symbiotic relationship between Greenlanders and nature. So during the old days, in the Qaqortoq, Dorset, and Thule age, especially the Thule age, when Greenlanders were Greenlanders, they would everybody hunted and fished and they gathered. That's how they fed their families, and they traveled up and down the coast. And all these smaller villages and stuff had what they called a shaman. This is before religion came into play. And sometimes when they went fishing and hunting, they would come back with nothing. And he talked a lot about, there was a time of famine, people died because of starvation and stuff. So these hunters would come back with nothing, and they would go talk to the shaman, and they would say, we think we've angered Mother of the Sea. And you're going to ask who Mother of the Sea is in a minute. Let me have this book. Yeah. So, they would go talk to the shaman, and the shaman said, oh, well, I would see what I could do. Can you grab that tubalek up there, babe?
Yeah.
So what the shaman would do is he would go in his own. He had a tent where he would go into a trance, and he would visit Mother of the Sea. And Mother of the Sea, she has this long flowing hair like you see on the front of this book. And when he would go visit her, her hair would be all dirty and matted, and things would be all tangled up in it. And surrounding her, if you could visualize this, surrounding her were all the animals that lived under the water. But she had control of land animals too. So they would just disappear for a while. Or this is the story of what they believed anyway. And so he would go and he would brush all the junk out of her hair while he was trying to make peace with her so that the peoples could go back hunting and eating again. And when he got done brushing all her hair out and he made peace with her, she'd say, okay, I'm going to release all the animals. And she would release all the animals. And they would come back, and the shaman would come back and tell the people that he'd made peace with Mother of the Sea, and they could go back hunting and fishing. So here is a book that you can actually buy. This one is called A Journey to the Mother of the Sea. It's a Greenlandic legend retold by, I can't see that,
Maria Feedback,
and illustrated by Eka Hu. Now, Eka, you're going to hear more about Eka because the Stone and Man Open Art Museum has to do with Eka. And she's an artist. And she was a young girl when the United States came to this town. And so when we start talking about Stone and Man, I have lots to talk about on the Stone and Man because I know so much about that, and it's an interesting story. So you can actually buy this book. I'll post the links for this, but the book talks about the sea animals have disappeared and people are starving. An old couple, once great shamans, are asked to journey to the Mother of the Sea to find out what happened to the animals, but the journey is dangerous. The Mother of the Sea is an important character in Inuit traditional stories shared across the circumpolar region. The version of the tale is one that has been told and retold by Greenlanders by Greenland generation. And I'll show you, I'll read a little bit and then I'll show you some pictures. I don't know if I'm allowed to actually read the book. I don't know about copyright though.
You can read it.
So I'll read some of it to you. So a long time ago, the people of Greenland believed in the Mother of the Sea. She lived at the bottom of the ocean where she ruled over all creatures of the sea. She was also all-knowing and very powerful. From her dwelling on the ocean floor, she would send seals, whales, fish, and seabirds up to the surface for hunters to catch. That is why people called her Mother of the Sea. However, if people began behaving badly, she would become angry and withhold the animals. Then a shaman would have to be sent down to clean and comb her hair, which would become tangled and dirty as a result of people's misdeeds. She was so powerful that only the mightiest of shamans could visit her at the bottom of the ocean. A shaman was a wise person who had supernatural powers and was both feared and revered. Shamans could cure the sick, predict the future. Only a few women became shamans, but those who did were more powerful than their male counterparts. Why does this keep staying disconnected? Can y'all hear us? Let me know. Someone hit a heart. Hello.
We're connected again.
Maybe it's just the chat disconnecting. Are y'all having trouble seeing us? Someone let me know if you saw I don't know, something with the video. Hello. It looks like people are still here. It says 22.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and go on with this. We shall now hear how it came to be that a feeble old woman went to visit the Mother of the Sea at her home on the ocean floor, and about the horrors and torment she had to endure on her way. Okay, great. The old woman lived in a small village with her feeble old husband. Once they had been both shamans, but as they grow into old age, their powers have dwindled. Now they were only useful for looking after children whose parents were away. If the children became too boisterous, the old couple would use their fading powers to make the floor tiles shake and vibrate, frightening the children into calming down. Hey, Donnell.
Hi, Donnell.
And I'll show you a couple pictures as we're doing this. Here's, this artwork is by Aka. One year there was a harsh winter. The sea froze over, making it impossible for anyone to go hunting, and people began to starve. One particularly cold day, the old man was lying on the sleeping bench, covered in skins and furs for warmth. His wife sat beside him, tending the oil lamp, which kept their small dwelling warm and bright. They were not expecting any visitors, but their son, I cannot say that word. That's a long name for a person. We have come to ask that you use your magic powers to remove the sea ice. We have brought a little bit of food with which to pay you with. I'm sorry, but we can't do magic anymore, said the old man. We are too old. We have heard that you use magic to make the floor tiles shake, scaring the children. If you can do that, you should also be able to remove the ice, the great hunter said. No, we cannot, the old couple replied. We can't remove the ice. We are simply too old. Our powers has left us. My son had just learned to hunt seal when the ice came and covered the sea, and now he is bored and plagues me to ask you to make this ice disappear. You have to try. Besides, the great hunter continued, we will soon be out of food. The great hunter kept begging and pleading, and at last the old woman said, we can try, but we are so old that it may be of no use. The great hunter and his son were very pleased that the old couple would at least try to remove the ice. We must, however, the old couple said, wait until it is dark to begin. When you are waiting for something exciting to happen, time seems to pass extremely slowly. This is how it felt for, say his name again.
Qaqortoq.
To him, the afternoon felt like the longest afternoon of his life. But finally, evening fell, and the old couple ordered the oil lamp to be put out because magic spells are only to be cast in complete darkness. When the lamp was out and darkness had claimed the tiny room, the old couple began to chant. They chanted for a very long time. Then the old man asked his wife, do you sense anything? No, I do not sense anything, she answered. They kept on chanting. Do you sense anything? The old man asked again. No, I do not sense anything. We are very old, so maybe nothing will happen, the old woman answered. And they kept on chanting. Sorry. And then he says again, do you sense anything now? Question mark. I don't know, maybe, his wife answered in a way that meant she was beginning to sense something. So they're in the dark. That's how it's supposed to be, the old man said encouragingly, and they kept on chanting. What do you sense now? I see a polar bear walking on the ice and walrus swimming underneath. That's good. That is how it's supposed to be, the old man said happily, and they kept on chanting. Now the polar bear is right outside our entrance, and the walrus is waiting down by the beach, the old woman said, and the couple stopped chanting. Then the old man told his wife, the polar bear will bite you and throw you down to the walrus. It will be painful, but you must not let it show. The old woman suddenly disappeared through the entrance. Outside, the polar bear was waiting. It bit the old woman and threw her down to the walrus, just as her husband had said. She landed straight down between the large tusks of the walrus. It was painful, but she didn't let it show. Then she lost consciousness. The polar bear came down to the walrus, and together they swam out into the deep water. There they are, the old woman, and then they parted ways. Y'all keep putting hearts in there so I know I'm not talking to no one. All right, let me show you this picture. The old woman became droppings from the polar bear and the walrus floating down through the sea to settle on the ocean floor. There are droppings there, the droppings transformed back into the old woman. How glad she was. The old woman was now all alone at the bottom of the sea. She could feel that she had grown very strong, and now she had to find the home of the mother of the sea. And asked her to remove the sea ice so people could once again hunt for food. She started walking. She walked and she walked until she finally saw a large house up ahead. As she approached, she saw an enormous dog sitting on top of the dwelling. It growled loudly. But the old woman wasn't scared. She continued straight toward the entrance, and what an entrance it was. There was this great gushing stream right in front of it, preventing strangers from entering.
The walking ladies part of it too.
Yep. Yep. I need to show the whole thing. Yeah, there we go. On her way toward the house, the old woman's helping spirit had whispered in her ear, "When you arrive at the great gushing stream by the entrance of the house of the mother of the sea, stand back and wait. Eventually match the size of Qaqortoq. Is it Qaqortoq or Qaqortoq? Qaqortoq souls will come floating down the stream. Use them to jump over to the entrance." Now the old woman was standing by the great gushing stream, waiting for the mats to appear as her helping spirit had foretold. Sure enough, a mat the size of a Qaqortoq soul came floating down the stream at an alarming speed. She let the first one pass by and waited for the next. When the next mat appeared, she was prepared. As it passed right in front of her, she quickly jumped onto it and leaped to the opposite shore. In this way, she reached the entrance of the dwelling of the mother of the sea. The old woman crept through the entrance and entered the house of the mother of the sea. What a sight! On the bench sat an enormous woman with thick mass of long, tangled hair draped over her body. This had to be the mother of the sea. She glared angrily at her uninvited guest, and the old woman became a little anxious. Then she remembered that her helping spirit would come to her aid, and she waited to see what would happen next. "Come here," ordered the mother of the sea. "You shall clean my hair." Just as the old woman reached her, the great woman grabbed her with one hand and lifted her up as easily as if she was a baby. The mother of the sea tried to toss the old woman into the stream, but the old woman's helping spirit whispered, "Wrap your fingers around her hair. This will save your life." The old woman did as she was told and clung to the hair. Twice the mother of the sea tried to throw the old woman into the stream, but both times she clung to the great mass of hair, her fingers wrapped around it, just like her helping spirit had told her. Realizing she couldn't shake off the old woman, the mother of the sea relented. "Very well, then, clean my hair." Yes, it is, Susan. Maybe this keeps doing this because there's not movement in the chat.
Could be.
That might be why it's doing that, because it thinks people left. The old woman began to clean the hair of the mother of the sea very thoroughly, untangling it with a large comb made of bone. Then she carefully wiped the huge woman's face with a soft skinned cloth dipped in the finest of oils. When she was done, the mother of the sea said, "Thank you. I have not been cleaned for a long time. Upon your return to land, you must tell your fellow villagers to take care of the ocean. When people do not care about the ocean and it becomes polluted, I get covered in filth and become unsightly and unkempt. Then I must keep the sea animals from the surface in order to make people change their ways. I must do this until someone comes down here to clean me. Ask everyone to remember this. People must not think only of hunting and food." Even though the old woman hadn't spoke of her mission, the mother of the sea knew of it and said to her, "Let me see what I can do for you. Help me move my oil lamp." The lamp was very large and heavy. They both grabbed it and shifted it a little to one side. From beneath the lamp, great flocks of seabirds flew out of the house and up toward the ocean surface. And she said, "That's enough," said the mother of the sea, and they moved the lamp back into place. I hope I don't get because of that.
Mm.
I forgot about that. Oops. Okay. There is one more thing you must do," said the mother of the sea as she moved to the opposite wall. "Do you see that large door? Help me open it." The old woman helped the mother of the sea open the large door, and only to behold a strange creature, part animal and part human. "You must mark it," said the mother of the sea. "How am I to do that?" said the old woman. "Scratch a patch between its eyes with your fingernail." The old woman obeyed, and a bare patch appeared between the creature's eyes. "That is good," said the mother of the sea. "This will be your husband's last pet. And for cleaning me, I thank you." The old woman then departed, leaving the dwelling of the mother of the sea. Okay. The old woman headed back toward the village, walking along the ocean floor. She was happy that she had succeeded in her visit with the mother of the sea. She thought about what the mother of the sea had told her while she was cleaning her great mass of hair. She was to tell the hunters not to go hunting as soon as the ice broke up, but wait. After a couple days, they could go hunting. The first catch was to be given to herself and her husband. The old woman remembered everything the mother of the sea had told her. Her journey home passed quickly as she was so very happy. Suddenly she found herself outside her home. She called out as she crept through the entrance, "Light the lamp. All is as it should be." Everyone was very happy to see that she was back safe and sound. Her husband, the happiest of all. They all slept until the light of day.
Did you just show it?
Oh, yeah, sorry. When they woke the next day, they heard the howl of a storm. Looking outside, they saw the ice breaking into a million pieces. Through its cracks, great flocks of seabirds emerged, and seals broke the surface of the water with their noses. The hunters hurriedly gathered their hunting gear and ran down to their kayaks. They had already forgotten the words of Mother of the Sea, that they were not to go hunting straight away. The hunters paddled out in their kayaks. However, every time they threw a harpoon, it fell straight down right beside the kayak as if it were broken. They returned to the village without a catch. They now believed the old woman's words and did not go hunting until she gave them permission to do so. When she said it was time, the hunters went out. This time, they caught all the seals and birds they aimed for and only returned to the village when their kayaks were almost overflowing. They brought the largest and most beautiful seals and birds to the old couple, just like the mother of the sea said they should. They also knew that the old man could not hunt for himself any more. Everyone in the village had enough to eat, and the old couple never lacked for food again.
You don't want to show that?
Yeah, I'm going to. I just want to see if this one. I wish to see if it was the end of it. Hey, Sean. Okay. One day, the old man said to his wife, I'm going out to hunt seal in my kayak. The old woman smiled and thought to herself, what is he thinking? He hasn't been hunting for a very long time, and his old kayak has been on the rack behind our house for so very long it's probably useless. But she said nothing. Before long, the old man returned from his hunt with a seal in tow. The old woman went down to the beach and was amazed to see that he had caught the finest seal in the entire ocean, with a pelt as beautiful and smooth as silk. Then the old woman saw that the beautiful seal had a bare patch between its eyes. Oh, wow. Eyes, and she thought of the strange creature she had marked with her fingernail during the visit to the Mother of the Sea. The Mother of the Sea had told her that it would be her husband's last pet, and she now knew this to be true. Everything had happened as foretold, and all this came to be because the old woman, to save her village from starvation, had the courage to undertake the dangerous journey down to the Mother of the Sea. And I think this is the end of it. Yeah, so this is the end of it. So these are the stories, folklore that is sent from generation down to generation to generation, and it's still being told even today. And so this is one of the things I talk to tourists about. You know, people hear other people spread misinformation. This is the next thing we're going to talk about. Misinformation. Misinformation is an evil thing. It only takes one person to keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over again. And then the masses start to begin to believe this one person keeps repeating that same thing over and over and over. So what's happened is we get tourists, and one of them will say, we heard that Greenlanders kill baby seals by taking a mallet and beating them in the head with it. And this kind of misinformation hurts Greenland. And I'm going to explain why it hurts Greenland. So Greenlanders, all Greenlanders, about what, maybe 75% of them?
Yeah.
About 75% of them hunt and fish, not only to add to their food table, but a lot of them make a living with it. Because and seal and whale is part of their diet. The thing with seals is they depend on that, especially the extreme northern part of Greenland. So when you have misinformation being spread like that, then you got Greenpeace and I don't remember the World Wildlife Federation, that's what they're called, pick up these same little lies and they spread it, and then it hurts the economic part of Greenland, and especially when it comes to seal, because one of the things that Greenlanders are taught is when you hunt or you fish, you only take what you need. You must use all of what you hunted, meaning you don't waste anything. And when you're hunting seals, seal is hunted for meat, not fur. The fur is a byproduct of hunting for food. So because they've been taught not to waste, they use as much as they can of an animal, and the skin is one of them. So a lot of time, hunters that have been hunting 50 years have enough seal skin in their home. So they start selling it to the tannery, and then the tannery turns around and makes jackets and pants and you name it, they can make it out of seal skin. And when you have misinformation being spread about so-called abuse of animals, then that makes the market drop off. And then that Great Greenland, which is the tannery here in our town, it's the only tannery here in our town. It's gone bankrupt twice because of misinformation, because people just won't buy the furs because they assume the story they hear is the truth when that's not true at all, because Greenlanders have this deep respect for nature. They believe in protecting it. They don't take more than they're supposed to. They share what they bring in. So Here's a good example about sharing. Someone will have um, dispatched a minke whale. When that minke whale is brought into the harbor, it takes one person. That person, hey, come down here and get some whale meat. Hey, come get some whale meat. And the whole town knows there's whale meat down there at the fish market. And everybody goes down there and they buy however many kilos of whale meat that they want. Sometimes I go down there if Nikolai's at sea, and I'll go down there and buy some whale meat so that when he comes home, he can make whale soup. So all of this stuff is done in a way that they're not ruining nature. There's no such thing as whale ships with big harpoons on the front of them like you would see from bigger countries. They don't do that. They hunt with small boats and they have a rifle and they are good shots. So the animal does not suffer. It's how they hunt seal, it's how they hunt whales, muskox, and reindeers. Now, in the extreme northern part of Greenland, there's 2 villages up there. I don't know the names of them. I'll have to go look them up. That still hunt the old way. They hunt with kayaks and harpoons. Qaqortoq? Yeah. Okay, so Nikolai knows what village it is. They still hunt the old way. They don't use a rifle. They get out in their kayaks and they hunt for seal or hunt for whales. That's the way they do it.
They use the rifle too, but what first part was that when they're going out to hunt the whales, like narwhals, most likely, they go out and with a kayak and with their harpoon bit, they can start using the rifles to kill it fast.
Yeah. So I'll talk. As we're doing these episodes, you'll hear more of me repeat myself at times because they tie into other stories. Because they teach every generation this respect, and that is why they fight so hard to prevent other countries from coming in here to like dispatch uranium. Because it would damage so much if they'd done that. And that was just what you do with the book. So I can show it to them one more time. I am going to. Here's what I'm going to do about these books. A lot of these books are all in English. There's 3 different places that these books can be bought from. So I'm going to be writing a blog tomorrow probably, and it's going to have a list of the name of all the books that are actually in English that are stories about Greenland or about Greenland itself. I mean, I have a bunch of books. You have no idea how many books I have. A lot, and I still keep adding to it. I will make sure that the ISBN number is also underneath the title of the book, the author of the book, and the 3 places so you might can find it. Now, this book that I'm going to show you here in a minute, where's the Stone and this book. This one's called Stone and Man. This is by Qaqortoq, and you heard me mention that she's the illustrator in this book, the artist of this book. I bought this book from Amazon, but when I went to look recently for this book, it shows it's there, but I couldn't find a copy of it. So I'm going to contact the publisher in Nuuk and see if he has a way of getting copies of this. And if they can, then I will share a link so that if you're interested in buying the Stone and Man, you'll have the ability to do that. Okay, what you going to show them?
These are just the examples here too.
It's more stories.
More stories.
Pronounce that one because I can't pronounce that one.
Hanggang nguyok.
So this one is about a boy who used to play by himself at the entrance to the hut. Then one day his mother couldn't find him. He is gone. He had been kidnapped by the people living further inland of the country. His father and a shaman set out to rescue him, and this is a story about him. Where's the other one at?
Right in front of you.
Okay, and this one is called The Whale, the Eagle, and the 2 Little Girls. And I'll give you a brief synopsis of this one. This one is 2 little girls play outside on the beach. They do not have anyone around who can pretend to be their husbands. So one girl pretends that she is married to the eagle flying high above, while the other one pretends she is married to the whale. But the game turns serious when the 2 girls are then abducted. Who will save them? And this is a story about that.
I think you do have a book with the guesses.
There's a bunch of books down there, babe. Oh, the glasses suit's down there too.
Hmm?
That glasses suit's down there too. Or it should be. All right, the next one here I'm gonna show to you. This one says, now this one says it has Danish, Greenlandic, and then underneath it is English. And this one's called Characters of the Greenland Mythology. And so this has like little short stories with drawings in it, with different mythologies that you can also, and this one was, but like I said, I'll post all the information. You didn't find it?
What?
You didn't see it over there?
What?
No, it wasn't down there in that pile of books. There's 2 stacks of books down there. Okay, another one that oh my God, I have so many books, you guys. You have no idea. I'm just gonna start showing you some of them. This little pamphlet, there it is. Here's another story, and this one, the Lassasuit.
Yes.
Gassasuit. Does that mean Greenlander
Yeah, it's a name.
or just the name? What does it mean in Greenlandic?
It's the name of the boy.
Okay. This book is about everyone at the settlement bullies the wretched orphan Gassasuit. One day he goes up into the mountains and meets the Lord of Power who blesses him with superpowers. Greenland's most famous and popular legend and a beautiful cartoon story. In this book, I'll show you how, this is how it looks inside. It's done in like a comic book. So this is about another kid. Okay. All right.
So,
There's a geek key, but I don't know what that is. That one's in English too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Then this one's called a geek P. Or is it P or B? This part.
B.
B. A key B.
AKP.
Akabi. Okay. So this one's about many years ago. Many years ago, a great and powerful shaman lived in Greenland. He had a tiny spirit helper that he had named Agibi. Akabi. One day, the shaman sends Akabi a few days ahead into the future to see if the weather will be fine for the upcoming polar bear hunt. However, something goes wrong, and Akabi, waking up in a museum, finds himself in the present, meeting strange creatures while he's exploring the place. The present is viewed with a great sense of humor through the eyes of the past, and the illustrations are there to inspire children and adults alike to experience the exciting story of Greenland's past. So this is another one that you can find in English.
Yeah.
And there's different covers too, right, babe?
There are several books of that one.
Yeah, they won't all look just like this. There'll be different ones because they created different fronts on them.
This one is called the Chinese Spirit Helper.
Yeah. I also have a pamphlet that talks about seals. I don't know if there's been an updated one of this because I bought this way back in 2012, I think. You'll find books like this. This one is Qaqortoq, which means South Greenland, right?
Yeah, Qaqortoq. Yeah.
Qaqortoq.
Qaqortoq. It's a double.
Oh, it's that double L that teases me. Oh my God. It's that double L sound. So this book is about South Greenland. Is a cornucopia of sensory impressions, green valleys, flowers of many colors, tall green mountains. The imprint of history is found everywhere from Inuit settlements to the Norse farmsteads. The warm summers and mild winters provide the best conditions for agriculture, and it is not without reason that the municipality is referred to as the breadbasket of Greenland. And there's lots of history and information in here. And I'm just going to finger through it a little bit so you can see that there's lots of. This is part of the Stone and Man I'll be talking to you guys about. I'm going to do a whole video about Stone and Man. If you are a scientist freak, you can find this over on Amazon because this is where I bought mine. But this is the geological history of Greenland. It's like a huge science book. It reminds me of a science book because it's like set in chapters and stuff. 2 hours from here, we have a extinct volcano that you can see from the helicopter. All right. Where's that list? How long have we been going now? We started at 8. Oh, we've been going 2 hours. Okay, yep. All right. Do you guys want to ask any questions? Because I didn't want to run it past a couple hours. I think that's too long after that. Please ask questions if you have any questions, and then we're going to talk about the poll. And we will continue talking about Greenland and we could talk about my adapting here, huh?
Yeah. Let's
do that. While I'm waiting on questions from you, we'll talk about what it was like for me to move here. Okay. You Americans are going to understand this, and if you're living in Europe, probably the same thing. Life is fast. We don't, you take that for granted because you don't realize it. But everything goes fast, fast, fast. When I moved here, everything is so slowed down. It took me, about a year, about a year or so to get used to how slow it really is. And your brain has to retrain itself too, because, we're so built to be multitaskers. And the first 2 years, I came home and I cried a lot. Not because anyone was mean to me. That's not why I cried. I cried because the language barrier was so hard for me. Because every time I would open my mouth and say something in English, I would get a blank look. Yes, it's a big cult. Yes, we're going to talk about the culture shock part of it. When I first got here, people couldn't even understand. At least I felt that they didn't understand me. It's kind of strange because now everybody answers me in English, except when I use Greenlandic. And if I use Greenlandic, I get a look like, wait, what did you just say? And the taxi drivers have been the ones that have taught me most of the Greenlandic along with him. But they've been working on me, to articulate it better. And so sometimes I'll get in the car and I'll say, Enga Samut. And what? Enga Samut. What did you say? I'm like, oh, come on, take the home. Because they were their brains had switched to English, I think. So it's pretty fun. As far as the culture, I didn't know what culture even meant until I moved here. My family doesn't have culture that I'm aware of. I used to hear culture mentioned on and off, when we went through school, or you hear the culture of the Native Americans or African Americans. There's a culture there. There's a culture for the Spanish people, for the Mexicans. All these different ethnic backgrounds have culture. But as an American raised in the South, what's our culture? Because I don't think we had one. Not that I know of. And the culture here is definitely different. But one of the things that happened when I moved here, for 3 years, babe, I felt like a movie star.
Yeah.
For 3 or 4 years, I felt like a movie star in this town. It was funny. People would stop me and talk to me and try to practice English. Ask me how I was. Am I loving living here? What, come see us, come visit us. It was all the time. Some of them stop and do it. If they don't see me in the store, and they run into me in the store, they're like, where have you been? Did you go back to America or something? No. Well, where you been? We ain't seen you. We miss you. So it's that kind of thing. The community is about, the population runs about between 35 to 3,800. It just varies because this is a education town. So a lot of kids above the grade school age come here to live while going to school. And so they come from settlements and villages and things like that. It's getting where when I talk to kids, they actually understand what I'm saying. when I first tried to talk to them, it was, blank faces. Or if I tried to speak Greenlandic, they would giggle and laugh at me. And Nikolai said they're not laughing at me. They're giggling because I'm trying to say Greenlandic. And that's funny to them, right?
Yeah.
Because, I have that so-called heavy accent everybody claims I have. So, getting used to not having I realized I'm a very spoiled American girl. And you're probably going to say, well, what does that even mean? That means that you and I could get in the car and go to any store wherever we lived and get whatever we wanted. And if we couldn't get it from that store, we could go to the next store and find it, or to the next store and find it. Here, there is no such thing. We have two small grocery stores. One of them's a little bit bigger than the other one. And the many things that you and I are used to as Americans, you're not going to find in that store. The food is much smaller, and there's not as much different variations of that same food. It's very different here. Food's a bit, right now it's expensive because worldwide everybody's experiencing inflation. This is not an American problem. It is a world problem. And when I have to pay 60 kroners for a chicken, that really ticks me off.
But
it's 59 kroners.
No, I mean US dollars, like
yeah, in US dollars it's what,
like
$12?
$8-9.
Yeah, it's highway robbery. A quarter of a liter. Wait, they sell beef by half liters. No, half kilos. But they price it by half kilos is what I was getting at. Yeah. So a half a kilo of ground beef. Babe, will you look up on my phone what that is in pounds? Half a kilo is what? Quarter of a pound, maybe? Anyway, a half a kilo ground beef would be like 50 kroners. You might use your phone, it's easier. Is beef, and that's expensive because you get this itty bitty pack of hamburger that you need two of because I have a man in the house, and he has a bigger appetite than me. 1.1 pound, 2 ounces, Sean says. Okay. So for 50 kroners, and how much is that in US dollars? 50 kroners? Sean says it's almost 1 pound, 3 ounces. We want to go from DK to US dollar. 50 kroners, because that's a going price right now. Although I saw it 59 kroners the other day. That's $7 a pound.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Even if you rounded it down, it'd still be $7, you know. So that's about $7 a pound for anything, a ground beef. So anytime I want all of y'all to consider this. When the pandemic happened, it affected all of us, not United States of America only. And that's when I get aggravated every time I hear this. This is an American thing. This is the current administration's fault that the prices are so high. No, it's not. It's worldwide. And we all need to understand that. Yeah, see, John says that's not much more. See, they're paying $6 a pound. When I left the United States, ground beef was $3 a pound.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, eggs are if we buy a 13 pack, that's 37 kroners. And all you have to do is use your Google and say DK to US dollar, and they'll tell you the price.
KR. Krona.
DK.
Yeah.
That's what I said. Okay. All right. Now somebody asked me questions. Let me go back and find them. How long have you lived here? I've lived here for 13 years now. But somebody asked something. Oh, what was there much paperwork to fill out to get your permanent residency? Sean asked. So here's the reason I did the migration. When we looked into the immigration where Nikolai could still work here, but spend 2 months at a time in the United States as a resident, the paperwork is humongous, and you have to fork out $2,000 straight up front. Here, you don't have to pay 0. No money. Now, the first 3 years, every year for 3 years in a row, both of us had to do residency paperwork for my residency. And whatever he wrote needed to match whatever I wrote, because Denmark could kick it back and say, why did you say this and why did he say that? Because what they were trying to make sure, what they do check on when people get married from other countries to someone here or in Denmark, they want to make sure that the reason they got married wasn't for financial reasons. Because that's not why me and him got married. We got married because we were in love, still in love.
Yes, and they will.
Yep. Well, I'm not going anywhere. So anyway, on the 3rd year, I requested what is called permanent residency. I'm still a U.S. citizen. I still have rights to vote. I have to come home every so often and renew my driver's license and renew my passport. I still have to do all these very American things in order to go anywhere. If I don't, and when I file for permanent residency, it gives you a card. And right now my card, did we get my card back?
Not yet.
Yeah, they have my card. They kept it.
They make a copy of it.
But it's in my passport. Would you hand me that? Let me show them what it looks like. Actually, I can show my Greenlandic driver's license too.
Yeah,
so I got one of the. One of these.
That's your residency card.
I know. I'm gonna talk about this. That's what I'm talking about. In my first 3 years, I got a new one of these every year, and then on my 3rd year, when I filed for permanent residency and I qualified for permanent, then they sent me one that had a 10-year expiration date on it. So this year, instead of going through all the same paperwork that I had to get the permanent, it was a 2-pager. And it was just me saying that my card expired. They took a picture of that. We had to do new passport pictures, and I'll get a new card in the mail sometime in the next few months. This is my Greenlandic driver's license. And the expiration date on my Greenlandic driver's license is, where's the date? Somewhere here.
It's your birthday.
Is that expiring?
Yeah.
No, 2032, see?
Yeah, 32.
So this is good until 2032. So that's my Greenlandic driver's license. But in order, let me have that again. In order for me to, so what I have to come home and do every so often, where's my regular driver's license? Somewhere in here, my driver's license. My Florida driver's license. So I have a permanent address in Florida. And I don't know when that one expires because I just renewed it. No, I had my married name put on it. That's what it was.
Okay, I'll find it.
It should be in there somewhere. That's interesting. Oh, anyway, I have to renew it what is it, 6 years he stay in Florida? I don't know. And my passport, I'm definitely going to have to redo that one. Yeah. So my Florida driver's license expires in 26. So the year that I'm going to be making a trip to the United States anyway is when I'll have to go and do this again. And my passport has to be renewed in 2027, I think. And then there's this. So when you live in a foreign country, you see all this ID stuff you have to have. And this expires in 27. So probably while I'm in the United States in 2026, I'll go ahead and request a renewal on my passport and go ahead and pay for that while I'm there, because I'll be there long enough for them to be able to mail it to me, depending on where I'm going to be at the end of the trip. There we go. Okay. Let me see here.
$5 for an egg. A dozen of.
$5 for a dozen eggs? That's insane. Okay. Anyone else have a question they want to ask? So while I'm waiting on more questions, we will be continuing on, and I will I'll figure out what we're going to talk. We're probably going to definitely talk more about the nature part relating to Greenlanders. Yeah, my real ID is my driver's license and my passport, Denise. We did ask when we went to do the renewal of my permanent residency stuff, for a new card. We asked her if she thought I could get me a Danish passport. She thinks she might can, but I kind of think maybe not because that would require me to file dual citizenship, and I don't know how to do that. Does Nick? Yes, he does. And what is it, 90 days?
Yeah, I have a 90 days of visa to be in US.
Yeah, every time he comes, he has to do a visa to come, and it's 90 days.
So the 90 days.
And so we tried to, this last time he didn't stay the whole 90 days, but he has stayed. You only get like 60 days off though, right?
No, last time that was like 30 days.
When we were in California, not this last time, but the time before. Wasn't it 60 days? Because you were there almost 2 months.
1.5 months.
1.5 months, yeah. Like mostly he'll stay like I'll go ahead of him. It's what we've been doing a lot of, is I'll fly ahead of him while he's still at sea. That way I can do some extra things that I need to get done. And then he comes and he'll stay six weeks or 7. And because he has to come back over here and get back on a plane and go wherever he's got to get on the ship. But he does come, and he did come he was in the United States this year with me because I road tripped him all over the place in Florida. If you become a dual citizen, Katie, you would just have to enter the US on your US. Yeah, but I already entered the US with my US passport. Denise says there is a bird flu going on in the US. That is why you don't have eggs up there. We don't get eggs from the United States. We get our eggs from Denmark. The shortage is, the capital of Greenland has eggs, but we don't. Go figure. Yeah, my passport is my real ID. My driver's license can't get me in and out of Denmark, but my passport can. And I even though I fly domestic in the US as an American citizen, I just give them my passport. I don't even bother with the driver's license. I have to have a driver's license to drive though, so there's that. Okay. Anyone else want to ask a question about tonight? He's leaving Thursday, you guys, and I'm going to be very sad.
Well, this is my last live this year.
Yep.
Then I will do another live first next year.
Yep. So here's our plan for the future lives concerning what we're going to, with Greenland and stuff. When he gets off in January, we're meeting each other in Denmark because we're going to pick up a puppy. We're going to go see his dad. I'm hoping to make a trip to IKEA to find a certain kind of cabinet for the sewing room. And maybe I'll finally do something about my sewing room when he's home this next go around. Everybody keeps like, when you going to get in there? You need to get in there. You need to get in there. Everybody's pushing. Please do something about that room. So, yeah. Andrea says, luckily, my landlord has 100 chickens, so no flu, so I get all the eggs I can eat. Yeah, I was talking to one of the local Greenlanders here, and he said that there's been discussion and consideration about putting in a chicken farm. And I'm like, I'm so for that, screw not having eggs. Susan says, I want to thank you both for teaching us more about Nico's homeland, and there'll be more to come. I will make sure I get the list of books up for you because I have so many of them, and I've been looking them all up, making sure I could find them. I need to talk to the publisher in Nuke and see if he can order some books or if he has the ability to ship to the United States. That's the other thing I got to find out about. Because if he can ship to the US, there's some of those books, you guys, if you're interested, I'm not twisting your arm, but it's worth, especially these child stories. They're really great. And, you can learn about folklore from a child's book. It's not a child's book. It's just a child's story that's written in a way where you can read it to your child. And, yeah, they're really worthwhile. No worries. I'm pretty well educated on those items, says Sean. Well, it's been over 2 hours now, and I thank you for coming to my live. He'll see you when he gets back from his mistress.
Sorry about that, honey. I had to go.
Dang it, I don't want to share you with her. Oh, it's so funny. But just so you know, I'm doing a 6-hour live Thursday. anyone who wants to come onto my Zoom and sew, laugh, tell jokes or stories, I don't care. This is to keep me occupied while he's moving around Greenland to get to where he's got to go.
If the weather's good.
Yeah, if the weather behaves herself, which we're not going to hold our breath on that because she's been too quiet. We have had no wind, no snow, no rain
for nearly 2 weeks
for
now.
nearly 2 weeks. Nothing. It is so quiet. It's freaky. I want to say goodbye to me.
Well, for me, that would be my last goodbye for this year. It's been fun. We had a lot of laugh, and of course, me building Legos part of it. So you see what we do, and of course, audiobooks listening too. When we're not online.
Yep. And stay tuned. He's going to come home from Denmark with some Legos.
We'll see about that.
Some new Legos. So stay tuned for that too. So thank you everyone for coming today. And I'll get a new, when I have a date for the next episode, I'll let you know. And we'll see where it goes with talking about Greenland. Thank you so much for tonight. Make sure to live, laugh, love, dream. And what you do with that, you create something out of it. Good night, everyone, and have a great night. And see you on the next live. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, you should, Sean. Do some stuff about Australia. People would be very interested in it.
But
I know I would.
I will. I always do, Susan. It's my mistress can be
temperamental.
My mistress now is temperamental for the moment. Sooner or later.
Yeah, she's going to be grumpy at some point because it's going to be winter. Hey, not you. You don't get to complain. Let her come up and say goodbye too, because they like seeing her.
Okay, here you go. Bye. Bye.
Somebody's like, feed me. I'm hungry. They're starving me half to death. Why are they starving me? Good night, everyone. You are such a little wiggle worm. You did good.
149 views?
Mm-hmm.